There was one rule every economist, every diplomat, every intelligence service believed in during the 1930s. You cannot build a massive war machine in a bankrupt country. You cannot fund thousands of new aircraft, tens of thousands of vehicles, and millions of rifles with empty coffers. You cannot expand a standing army from 100,000 men to more than 3 million without the world noticing. The global experts were certain. Germany was broke. Germany was strangled by reparations. Germany was still crawling out of a depression so deep its factories stood silent and its treasury echoed. And in every embassy across Europe, analysts repeated the same sentence. Germany cannot rearm. They simply do not have the money. But in 1934, one man quietly rewrote the rule. One man built a financial illusion so complete that not even Hitler's inner circle understood its full size. And Hjalmar Schacht changed everything. Hjalmar Schacht was 57 years old, tall, sharp-featured, impeccably dressed, with eyes that studied numbers the way generals study maps. Born in Tinglev, raised in the borderlands between Danish and German culture, he grew up understanding complexity, compromise, and the power of economics. By the 1920s, he had become famous for ending Germany's devastating hyperinflation. While wheelbarrows of worthless paper money rolled through streets, Schacht's firm hand stabilized the mark and rebuilt confidence in the banking system. He was seen as brilliant, unshakable, necessary. And when Hitler rose to power in 1933, he needed a magician, someone who could turn political fantasy into financial reality. Schacht became that magician. Hitler appointed him president of the Reichsbank and later Minister of Economics, placing him in control of the entire financial bloodstream of the Reich. But Schacht instantly saw the problem. Hitler wanted an army the size of Europe, overnight. Factories, steel, airfields, ammunition plants, rail expansions, a fleet of trucks that didn't exist. The numbers didn't add up. Germany's GDP in 1933 was roughly 55 billion Reichsmarks. But the rearmament plan required the equivalent of over 100 billion within 7 years. It was impossible. Unless you cheated. Unless you lied. Unless you built an invisible economy no one could see. Schacht knew the stakes. If he failed, Germany collapses. If he succeeded, Europe burns. And in 1934 he took his first step toward an impossible action. He opened a file. He signed a letter. He created a document that shouldn't exist. A piece of paper called a MEFO bill. The birth of the shadow economy. It begins in Schacht's office. A small lamp. The scratch of a pen across paper. A signature authorizing a completely fictional company, Metallurgische Forschungsgesellschaft, MBH. A company with no employees, no buildings, no products, no machinery. But it has one purpose, to secretly fund German rearmament. Schacht issues the first MEFO bill, a promissory note worth 1 million Reichsmarks, disguised as a payment for industrial research. It is a lie. A total fabrication. But the genius lies here. Germany's biggest arms producers accept the bills as real. Banks accept them as collateral. The Reichsbank guarantees them without announcing anything publicly. And suddenly Hitler has 1 million invisible marks. Then 5 million. Then 10 million. Then 100 million. Within 2 years, Schacht quietly injects 12 billion Reichsmarks into the German war machine. More than 3 times the entire federal budget. And no one outside Germany notices. The German perspective. Hitler is shocked. Factories roar to life. Steel orders triple. Aircraft plants expand. Krupp, Rheinmetall, and Messerschmitt receive mountains of money from a company that doesn't exist. Hitler asks Schacht, "How far can we push this?" Schacht replies, "As far as you dare, mein Führer." But Germany's rearmament isn't just built on paper illusions. Schacht begins the second phase. Foreign currency tricks. Germany has no foreign reserves. No dollars. No pounds. No gold. Schacht invents a system of blocked marks, accounts foreign companies can spend only inside Germany. He traps their money. He forces them to invest in German factories. He forbids withdrawal. Foreign investors complain. He smiles. Then he launches bilateral trade deals with 26 countries: Yugoslavia, Romania, Brazil, Hungary. Germany trades machinery and weapons in exchange for iron or copper and oil, but settles every deal using a closed-loop system. No gold leaves Germany. Ever. Every nation thinks it's getting a good deal. Schacht knows they're being drained. The secret front companies. Then he begins hiding rearmament inside civilian projects. Highways. Their military transport corridors. Airfield construction under aviation clubs. Their Luftwaffe bases. Factories built as tractor assembly plants? Their tank depots waiting for armor plating. Front companies balloon in number. 272 research institutes, 119 machine works, 37 automotive firms, 18 agricultural development offices. Nearly half are secretly producing or preparing for war. Yet on paper, Germany remains peaceful. Civilian. Ordinary. The countdown of deception. By 1936, Hitler demands more. More tanks. More planes. More ammunition. Schacht runs the numbers. The MEFO scheme collapses if the bills come due. The foreign reserves are nearly zero. The domestic supply of steel is running out. Inflation pressures rise. His advisors warn him. 6 months until the system breaks. But Hitler demands expansion. No delays, no hesitation. Schacht faces the countdown. 180 days. 90 days. 60 days. 30 days. He has one option left. He meets Göring and says, "If you want a miracle, I will give you a miracle. But it will cost you everything." The final gamble. Schacht unveils a plan to hide the entire MEFO scheme inside future military budgets, effectively extending the deadline for repayment by years. He pushes the Reichsbank to take on more hidden guarantees. He separates balance sheets, buries liabilities, and obscures loans. He orders banks to roll over MEFO bills instead of cashing them. He pressures industrial giants to hold them. He threatens smaller banks into cooperation. He meets each factory head personally. He shakes their hands. He looks them in the eyes and says, "This bill will be honored. Germany will not fail you." Some doubt him. He stares harder. And they fold. By 1937, MEFO bills total 18 billion marks, nearly half of all German military spending. The German army grows from 100,000 to 2.1 million men. The Luftwaffe expands from nothing to over 4,000 aircraft. The Navy begins work on battleships and U-boats. Tank production surges from 0 to 2,500 armored vehicles. All funded by a mountain of fake money the outside world never sees. The moment of near failure. Then it happens. A consortium of German banks threatens to cash out 1.8 billion Reichsmarks in MEFO bills. If they do, the system collapses. The Reichsbank drains. Factories shut down. Hitler's rearmament dies. Schacht feels his pulse. His hands tremble. For the first time he senses the trap closing around him. He races to the chancellery. He explains the crisis. Hitler listens silently. Then he says, "Fix it." Schacht returns to the Reichsbank and orders emergency extensions. He forces the banks to accept new terms. He uses every tool, pressure, persuasion, deception, to keep the illusion alive. Hours pass. Then days. Then weeks. Finally the banks relent. The MEFO bomb does not explode. And Schacht knows. He cannot keep this up forever. But Hitler only sees strength. He sees a miracle economy. He sees a war machine rising from nothing. He sees invincibility. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of secrecy, ingenuity, and hidden power deserve to be told. And by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. What the world didn't know was this. The entire German rearmament, every tank, every plane, every bullet, rested on a single man's financial illusion. By 1938, British intelligence begins noticing oddities. Trade numbers don't align. German industrial output outpaces known budgets. Shipments of steel and rubber surge despite no documented payments. Analysts whisper, "Where is this money coming from?" They send reports to London, to Paris, to Washington. Governments hesitate. The numbers don't make sense. They don't match any economic theory. And that is what terrifies them. By the time they realize the truth, it's too late. Germany steps into Austria, into Czechoslovakia, into Poland. Every conquest brings new resources, coal mines, factories, gold reserves, temporarily refilling the illusion. Schacht's financial architecture becomes the backbone of Blitzkrieg. The world watches events spiral but never fully understands the mechanism. Until Schacht finally breaks. He tells Hitler, "The economy is overheating. The MEFO system is burning out. You must slow the rearmament." Hitler dismisses him, removes him, hands the economy to Göring and the 4-year plan. And without Schacht's careful balancing act, the illusion begins to crack. Inflation rises. Shortages appear. Debt balloons. Germany is now committed to war as its only way out of financial collapse. The war machine Schacht secretly enabled now devours the nation alive. And Hitler never sees the irony. His greatest weapon was built on a lie so fragile it could shatter under a banker's pen. After the war, Hjalmar Schacht stands before the Nuremberg tribunal. Gray-haired now. Older. Quieter. He is charged with enabling Hitler's war. He admits what he did. He defends why he did it. He claims he tried to limit Hitler's power. But the judges see a man who funded a nightmare. Schacht is acquitted of war crimes, but convicted later by German courts and jailed again. He dies in 1970 at age 93. A complicated man. A brilliant economist. A servant of a regime that used his genius to launch catastrophe. Thousands of Germans who worked under him remember his intensity, his precision, his unshakable belief in numbers, his ability to hide entire armies inside balance sheets. To this day historians debate him. Was he a mastermind? A prisoner of his own system? A man trying to save Germany? Or a man who set Europe on fire? The truth lives somewhere between the ledgers. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us on this mission, subscribe and turn on notifications. And tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your city or state in the comments and share if someone in your family ever served. Thank you for ensuring that Hjalmar Schacht and the millions affected by his hidden economy do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.